Hey, Jake from Primerica. I just bought this IUL policy I'm really excited about. Have you heard about it?
Hey, John. Yeah, that's great. I have heard of them, and it's great that you took that step to protect your family. Let me ask you, when you bought the policy, what was your main goal? Was it the insurance? Was it the savings, or a little bit of both?
I think it was a little bit of both. I like the idea of the investments and the savings together. The tax-free benefits were also a big selling point.
Okay. And do you understand exactly how all those features work? And I mean, have you even had a chance to read through your policy yet?
Now, honestly, Jake, I haven't even looked at it. I really don't even understand what I'm looking at.
Okay. Well, why don't you go get your policy? I'll show you something interesting.
Got one right here.
Yeah, so let me start by sharing with you, John, some of the downfalls that many cash value policies have. So whether it's traditional whole life or universal life or index universal life like what you have, they're all built on the same foundation.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of any downfalls. Can you go into more detail?
Sure. So there's four main downfalls that you want to be aware of. And so the first one is going to be delayed savings, okay? The second one is where you borrow your own money.
Okay.
Third is you pay more premiums for less coverage. And fourth, you either receive the death benefit or the cash value, not both. Okay? So let me illustrate for you how this works by using a bucket and some tennis balls, all right? So the premiums that you're paying into your policy are the tennis balls, and the bucket is going to represent your insurance policy, all right? And with cash value, they have an insurance bucket and a savings bucket combined, okay? And so because of that, imagine if you're paying your policy, so throw some premiums in the bucket there, right? And you pay your premium only for some to fall out the bottom, right? So you're filling up your bucket with premiums, but they're falling out the bottom. Would you continue to fill up this bucket with tennis balls, or would you go find a new bucket?
I'd probably get a new bucket, Jake.
Exactly. And so that's how your policy is working, because as you can see from your policy, you pay $1,400 a year into it, and after 2 years, there's no money there.
Okay.
After 5 years, you've paid almost $6,000, and you only have $2,600 in it.
Wow. So essentially what you're saying, Jake, is the tennis balls are my premium, and as I pay them into the bucket, okay, they just fall out of the bottom. I mean, where does all that cash value go?
Well, that comes to the insurance company. So over time, you might see a little bit in it after maybe the third year or something. You might see a little bit of cash value in there. But as you keep paying your premiums, the cash value continues to lag behind.
Wow.
So you probably would rather get a new bucket now than wait for many years from now, right?
Absolutely. I think I would, Jake.
And so that leads me to the second downfall, John. So let's throw a couple more in there. Let's say you have accumulated some tennis balls, right? A couple you built up in your cash value. And you say to me, hey, Jake, I'd like to take some of those tennis balls out and go play tennis, right?
Sure. Okay.
And I can say, yeah, you can go do that. However, John, when you're done, you're going to have to pay those tennis balls back, and you need to throw another one in there for interest.
Okay.
To borrow your own money.
Wow. So, Jake, what you're saying is, if I'm understanding correctly, if I want to borrow against my cash value, I've got to take the money out, but then I have to pay it back with interest, only to make sure that everything gets back in the policy.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. I was not aware of that. Jake, let me understand this correctly. If I had just put my money into a savings account at my bank, and I want to go take that money out whenever I want to play tennis maybe, I could do that and I wouldn't have to pay it back with interest. But you're saying if I take it from my cash value policy, I'm going to have to pay it back with interest in order for it to all get back in the bucket.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep. Wow. And it's written in your policy.
Interesting.
And so that leads me to another downfall, John. Like I said earlier, if you die, you're paying into this policy over time. Why don't you throw a few more balls in there, right? All right. So you're paying more premium into this policy.
Gotcha.
If you die, though, the insurance company will only pay your family the death benefit, and we keep the rest of the savings. It's one or the other. Did you realize that's how it works?
Jake, hold on one second. I'm paying a considerable amount of money into this policy. You're saying if I unexpectedly pass away, my family only receives the death benefit? Where'd all the cash value go?
I keep that as the insurance company.
Okay. And not really, Jake. I mean, I wasn't aware of all these downfalls, but I have an index universal life policy, and all of these pertain to whole life in general, correct?
True. However, remember, that's the foundation. And so it's common in many of these policies, but then once we get to universal life, you're going to have an increasing cost of insurance that you're going to have to deal with every year, and more fees than what would be in a regular cash value policy.
Okay, go on.
So when it comes to your cost of insurance, okay, the first year it might cost you maybe 3 or 5 tennis balls, right?
Okay.
So you throw them in the bucket. But then by year 10, that same insurance might cost you 10 tennis balls.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you go to year 20, and that might cost you 15 or 20 tennis balls, right?
Essentially all of them, Jake.
Essentially all of them, right? Just to pay that same insurance from the first year. So in real dollars, John, that's looking like in the first year, it might cost you $3,600 for the premium just for the insurance. But in year 10, it might cost $6,900. By year 20, you're paying almost $10,000 just for the insurance.
Wow, Jake. So I'm paying more each year on the cost of insurance in this policy, but it was my understanding that in the later years of the policy, I could maybe stop paying premium. How exactly would that work?
Great question, John. So picture it like this. Your policy is playing tug of war against itself, okay? So on one side, you got the cash value, and that is pulling because it wants more money to come to it every year. However, the cost of insurance is pulling more money towards it every year, and you might be left with nothing. Can you see how it would make more sense to get a new bucket now versus waiting years from now for that to happen?
Yeah, that's pretty concerning, Jake. But let me make sure I understand this correctly. So in the later years of my policy, when I don't necessarily need all that death benefit, the insurance company's still going to be taking their cost of insurance, and they're going to take it from my savings. But if I don't have enough, that could cause my policy to potentially lapse.
Exactly.
That's pretty concerning there, Jake. So, as we're continuing to look at my policy here, I see a considerable amount of fees. Well, what exactly am I looking at here?
Let me give you a few of these back, all right? And I'll demonstrate how that works.
Sure.
So you're paying for this policy. So Matt, toss a premium into that policy. But before it gets in there, the insurance company has to take a premium expense charge.
Okay.
Throw another one in there, and we need our monthly policy fee. Throw another one, and we might need to take an accumulated enhancement charge as well. And so your policy has up to 3 to 5 different fees and charges that are coming out. Did you realize how much you were actually paying in fees?
I had no idea, Jake.
So, John, that's just part of it. But as we get to the top, we get to index universal life is what you have, all right? So all the downfalls that we've talked about, plus when you get to index universal life, you have limited growth, and it ends up being very expensive insurance, okay? So let me illustrate that. Basically, when you have an index universal life policy and you're putting your premiums in, you're not actually invested in the market, okay? And so the insurance company can mandate or cap the growth on your policy, which is basically like putting a lid on it, where limiting your growth within this policy.
Wow. All right. So I'm really starting to see the downfalls of this policy, Jake. I think it's pretty clear. I need a new bucket. I just really wish I had reviewed my policy earlier and actually read through it. But we're talking today, if I wanted to get a new bucket, what would that look like?
Great question. So at Primerica, John, we believe in buy term and invest the difference, okay? And it actually means that you keep the insurance bucket separate from the savings bucket. So this example, this is a John and Mary, they're age 35. They had an IUL policy for $250,000. They're paying $251 a month for it. At age 65, 30 years later, it would only grow to about $127,000.
Okay.
Is that very exciting?
Not really.
Not really, right? So by doing buy term, invest the difference, we can give them $250,000 for $82 a month. Now that $169 a month that we would save them, we can invest that in well-managed growth mutual funds like a Roth IRA. And if it averaged 9%, it could grow to $311,000.
Wow.
Now I know $311,000 is maybe not enough to retire on, but every $300,000 helps, right?
Absolutely, Jake. And I think, this option looks a lot better for my family. Would really love to set up some time to discuss this further.
Yeah, absolutely.